Welcome to a special edition of Timber Talk, featuring the Community Spotlight. Today's guest, Marlene Austin from Passages, Inc. And now, here's your host of Timber Talk, Mr. Tommy Timber. Hello everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Timber Talk. I am your host, Tommy Timber. And if you've been following us on social media on our website, you've probably noticed a lot of candy bars going around, and you've probably been seeing a lot of teal ribbons going up in the branches. We are helping out an organization called Passages, which is right here in our own backyard. Now, Passages is an organization that helps support and advocate for sexual abuse victims. And today we wanted to take a little bit of time to give you a little more information on Passages, get to know what they're all about, what they provide, and just why they're such a valuable member of our community. So we're very lucky today. We happen to have one of the members of Passages in studio today. So right now we're going to send it over to Marlene Austin from Passages. Marlene, thanks for joining us today. And why don't we just get started by having you tell us just a little bit about Passages?
Sure. Passages is actually a sexual violence agency. We're a private nonprofit organization, and we actually serve 3 counties. We serve Clearfield, Clarion, and Jefferson counties. Passages has actually been around since 1980, and it's a really neat story how we actually started out. So there were 2 women. One was a 911 operator in Clarion County, and the other one was campus security there on West Now Clarion University. And the 2 of them were roommates, and with both of the jobs that they were in, they realized how prevalent sexual assault was in our local communities. So they just wanted to do something more about that. So after a lot of talk and conversation there, they had a community seminar where they got some community members together. They talked about a lot of myths, a lot of facts about sexual abuse. And just through that seminar, they were convinced that, we really need to start something here in our county for our communities to help with this issue. So with a little help from Clarion University, their foundation, they got a little bit of money. They visited also another sexual violence center that was in Venango County just to see what that process was like. And before long, Passages was actually born. And it started though as it was called a Rape Crisis Center of Clarion County. And we didn't change our name until around 1985, I believe it was. So we started in 1980, like I said. Actually, there was a little office up at Clarion University in Harvey Hall, and it was just like a little, just a very small room. And they put a desk in there, a chair in there, a phone in there, and that's how Passages came about. So in 1983, we expanded over into Jefferson County. And then in 1996, we expanded into Clearfield County as well. So that's just a little history about our agency.
That was a really good history lesson there on Passages. I didn't even realize that Passages has been around for so long supporting the community. So now we know a little bit more about Passages. Why don't you tell us about some of the services that Passages provides?
Yeah, so we provide a wide range of services for victims of sexual abuse and also their family members if they choose to. Starting off, we provide crisis or supportive counseling for victims of sexual abuse. So crisis counseling could be anything from, let's say, a phone call. Someone is just having a hard time dealing with emotions. They're bringing up a lot of memories of what has happened to them. So they may even just call us on the phone, our hotline, and just, need to talk to somebody to just feel a little bit better about themselves. So it may just be like a one time or maybe a couple times where they just talk to one of our counselors. But then the supportive counseling is actually a little bit longer. Anywhere from maybe a month to 3 months long, they'll come in for supportive services and supportive counseling. It just helps them to normalize a lot of their feelings, give them some coping skills to be able to feel a lot better about themselves. Along with the counseling, we also provide medical advocacy and legal advocacy. And what that is if someone, let's say, would go to one of our local hospitals after a sexual assault happens, the hospitals will actually call us on the phone, and they will ask for one of our advocates to come in and sit down with the survivor. And we are actually there just for support as they would go through a medical forensic exam following the assault. And with that exam, every time that someone comes into the hospital because they've been assaulted, the hospital will have to call law enforcement to come in because they'll have to investigate this crime that has happened. So we're also there for legal support as well. And after that person has gone through an exam, once police have investigated this, if it would go through the legal process, we have a legal advocate on our team. Her name is Robin, and she will be there from that whole entire legal process, just there for support for the victim and their family members. So along with counseling and legal and medical advocacy, we also have 2 awesome prevention educators. And what they do is they just go into all of the schools in our surrounding areas and maybe community groups, and they provide educational programs for these people. So between 2 educators, we do approximately 800 prevention education programs a year in our schools and throughout the community. So they're not really in the office that much. They're out and about almost every day. So it's nice to see them though once in a while. So I did the counseling, I did the advocacy, I talked about prevention ed. And the last thing that we do have is a 24-hour hotline. We actually have to be there 24 hours, 7 days a week for anyone who would need our type of services. So, we're there for them.
Yeah, so it's really neat to learn just how many different services that you guys do offer. It kind of covers everything from the support to the advocacy to the education. So really just a wide range of services that you guys do provide to the community when they need it. So that's awesome. Now I want to ask about you. How did you get to be involved with the organization?
When I was a little girl, I always dreamed about being an elementary school teacher. And so growing up, that's what I went to school to do. And I did teach for about 7 years. And I wasn't teaching up in this area though. My husband and I were down in South Carolina at the time. And we did not like it at all there. So we just said the first person who gets a job, we're going back. So he obviously got the job. And so when I came back up, I did some subbing, did some sabbaticals. And a friend of mine actually worked at Passages, and she says, hey, there's an opening here for an educator's position. So she said, why don't you interview for it? And I said, I think I will. So I got the job, and long story short is I've been there now for almost 25 years. And for 17 of those years, I was a prevention educator. And I did not know the first thing about Passages or these types of services. I didn't know they were available to people when I first started there at Passages. So I really had a lot to learn. And I remember for the very first week, I had to sit down and go through a pretty intensive sexual assault counselor training, it's called. And during that training, I think it was like on the very first day, maybe even, I was given this questionnaire about how much do you know about sexual violence? And there were a number of questions, and I'm going through there and I'm thinking, oh, this can't be too hard. So after I was finished answering the questions, the facilitator of the training said, okay, let's go through and see how you did. And I literally missed almost every one of these questions, because I think I had the mindset of which a lot of people still have, which is, sexual violence only happens to females. It might be from that stranger who jumps out of the bushes, or, you're walking in a dark, secluded place and they jump out and attack you and sexually assault you. That's how I thought it happened to people. And I'll tell you, boy, was I wrong. I learned so much and feel I continue learning each and every day. I'd like to just throw out a couple statistics for you guys, just to let you know how prevalent sexual abuse, sexual violence is. By the time a girl reaches 18 years old, 1 in every 4 girls are going to be sexually abused in some way. And for boys, it's not that far off. 1 in every 6 boys are going to be sexually abused in some way, shape, or form by the time they reach 18 years old. And when I learned those statistics, it just blew my mind, because right away, my mind just went back into my classrooms, the children that I taught. And I just started thinking, how many of those young children has this already happened to? And I had no idea. I had no idea at all. I started thinking, I've learned a lot about red flags, signs and symptoms that children go through. And my mind again went back to those children that I taught, and I started thinking, wow, was this going on? And I never knew. Not one child ever came up to me and said, this has happened to me. So in my mind, I just thought it didn't happen. So that was a big, big learning experience for me. And a lot of people think that sexual abuse happens by strangers. It's that guy driving around in the white van, looking to pick up a child on the side of the road or whatever. But that's totally not how it happens. I mean, it does once in a while. That's the things you see on the news. But in reality, over 90% of children that are sexually abused, it's by someone that child somehow knows. And over half of those times, the way that child knows them, it's within their family somehow. It could be a parent, step-parent, a relative, even maybe a sibling. So it's very prevalent, not only in big cities, it occurs right here in our communities. It occurs a lot. Our counselors right now, we serve roughly about 800 clients a year. So, and if you just think about that, that's just the people who came to us for services. So you start to really think about that. How many people aren't we even seeing that this has happened to? So, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about.
Wow, it really is eye-opening when you hear some of those facts and statistics about sexual abuse. Really kind of gets your attention and kind of makes you realize that it's unfortunate, but almost everybody probably knows somebody who has been a victim. So it's just, again, what a great service that you guys provide to the community. A great free service to those that need it, free and confidential. The service may be free, but I know there's got to be some costs associated with it. So how does an organization like Passages go about getting funding for these, just this wide array of services that you do provide?
Yeah, so Passages is actually, for the most part, we're grant funded. So one of our major funding sources is PCAR, which stands for Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape. Another one of our major funding sources is Pennsylvania Coalition Against Crime and Delinquency. And aside from that, we get some funding from Du Bois Area United Way. We also get some funding from our Clarion United Way. And then we really, really rely on our community as well. So the rest of the money that we get to provide our services for survivors is from just local donations and any type of fundraisers that we have.
So that's really great to hear. And I know you guys are very excited about a particular event that you guys have coming up right now. I see you got the shoes sitting there on the desk, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about the Red High Heels and this event you guys have going on right now called Walk a Mile in Her Shoes?
Okay, yeah, sure. This year is going to be our 8th annual Walk a Mile in Her Shoes event. Walk a Mile in Her Shoes, though, was not started by us at Passages. It's been around since 2001. How it began was, well, first of all, there's an old saying that says, you really can't understand another person's experience until you walked a mile in their shoes. So back in 2001, this is exactly what a group of men did. They put on some shoes and they really were passionate about the issues of sexual violence, domestic violence. And so they actually put on some high-heeled shoes and walked a mile just to kind of get the awareness out there about the issues of sexual violence and domestic violence. So this year, our Walk a Mile in Her Shoes event is going to be a little different than before. We actually are going to have a week-long event, and we're doing this because of COVID-19 and the restrictions that are still currently out there. But this year, the week-long event, it started on Sunday, and it's going through the rest of this week until Saturday, where participants are going to actually track on their own time the distance that they have walked. So you can use any type of device that you want. If you have the smartwatch, you can download an app on your smartphone to track your distances, a pedometer, or whatever you want to use. But so for this week, that's what everyone's doing. So the folks here at Timberland, you've gotten together to do this to help support our agency. So we're really, really grateful for all of you. But what everyone is doing at Timberland and throughout our community is they're getting sponsors for their walk. So if someone would like to sponsor you, let's say $1 for every mile or for how many steps that you walk, then at the end of the week, you just send your distance to us at Passages, and you would collect your donations that you received, and that actually is going to go to us, so we're very grateful for that. So we're excited to see what everyone's doing. Everyone's taking pictures or video clips are going to send to us, and all of that's going to be turned in on April 9th, and then on April 13th is when our big, if you want to call it like a come together event, is going to happen. Everything's going to be virtual. So all of the participants are going to be on Zoom. And Sarah, our counselor advocate, is the one that is tallying up everyone's distance that they've walked and the donations that we received. And we're going to be giving out 4 different awards for this event. And this is kind of a nice little trophy that you guys have here, but I'm telling you, it's nothing of what the award's going to look like for those who are going to be the winners of this event. So the awards are going to go, we have 2 individual ones and 2 group awards or team awards. So one award will go to the individual who walked the most miles or steps. One is for the individual who raised the most donations for Passages, and then the 2 group awards. So the team that raised the most donations and the team that walked the greatest distance. So we're really excited, and we hope that someone from Timberland can get some of those awards. So we'll wait and see what happens.
You know, Marlene, I know several members of the Timber team are participating in this event here this year. The miles are just being crushed right now. So if you want, we can save you guys some time. Just go ahead and get the trophies engraved now. It is spelled TOMMYTIMBER. You can just drop it off at the studio anytime you'd like, because let's just face it, we're going to be taking over some hardware here at Timberland Federal Credit Union. But Marlene, I do want to thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure to get to know you and get to learn a little bit more about Passages and what you guys do for our community. Is there anything else that you'd like to bring up here before we let you go?
The only thing I can think of is I definitely want to take the time to thank Timberland. Thank you all for doing this event with us and for us. Not only Walk a Mile, but also the teal ribbons and the candy bars that you're doing for us. You just don't know how much that helps our agency to help those who are in need of our services. So I want to thank you all for that. For our community members who are making those donations to you to be able to give to us. But if anyone is in need of any of our services that we talked about earlier, like I said, we're in all 3 counties, Clearfield, Jefferson, and Clarion we have offices in. We have office right in DuBois here, but to get a hold of us, we have a few numbers for each of our offices, but to make it easy, I'll just give an 800 number. You can get a hold of us at 1-800-793-3620.
And there you have it. Once again, thank you to Marlene Austin from Passages for taking some time out of her day to chat with us here. Again, if you or anyone you know does need to utilize these services, we have the information right down the bottom of the screen here. You can visit their website, or you can call their free and confidential 800 number. If you want to support Passages, don't forget, we've still got plenty of candy bars here, these delicious Gardner's milk chocolate, peanut butter melt-away bars. Plus, you can add your name to any of our branch walls here and get yourself a teal ribbon. Support Passages, support a great organization in the community. Once again, thank you guys so much for all that you do in all of our different charitable causes. We couldn't do it without the amazing members that we have. So for now, I'm going to sign off. This has been Tommy Timber for a very special edition of Timber Talk. We will see you next time.